Thank you for joining us. We have returned. I am the taxman. This is the IRS Radiohour on AM560 The Answer. I'm joined here with Deborah Schreiner and Jim Leahy, and we're going to do another.
And now, here's that man with a head just crammed full of knowledge, Mr. Know-It-All.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Know-It-All, the segment where Attorney Steven Leahy gives us his infinite wisdom on all things bankruptcies.
And I like to...
I gave a little...
Oh, that's good. A little
teaser.
I like to catch Debbie off guard sometimes.
All right, Debbie, introduction.
She's a radio professional, and we get her. Sometimes I catch her off guard because I'm like our president. I create chaos wherever I go. Isn't that right, Jim? That's right. Okay, so today I have a question, and the question is, can you help me with the Chapter 13 bankruptcy? Because I am the tax man. Right?
Yeah.
Now, and so some people get confused with that. Well, isn't that a bankruptcy attorney? I'm not a bankruptcy attorney, although I do help people in bankruptcy. See the difference? Because one of the 6 things we talked about this on one of the other segments, that there's 6 things you can do if you have a tax problem. One of those 6 things you can do is you can file for protection under the bankruptcy laws. Now, taxes in bankruptcy is a very complicated area of the law, and so if you have tax problems and you're thinking about bankruptcy, get a bankruptcy lawyer who understands tax law also, because they when they get combined, it gets very complicated. But I also have an association with a mortgage broker, and I get a lot of people that are in foreclosure. They're trying to refinance their way out, and something comes up, and the only way maybe they can't do it because maybe they have a tax problem, for instance, or maybe it just won't work for them, and so their credit score's been taking a hit because they're behind in a mortgage or something, so they can't refi to get out of it, and so you have to file for protection under Chapter 13 of the Bankruptcy Code. Okay, so remember, there's 2 types of protection offered by the federal government under this term bankruptcy, and if you think of the Bankruptcy Code as a book, and like every other book, it's divided into chapters, and that's why you hear so much about the Chapter 7 or a Chapter 11 or a Chapter 13 or a Chapter 9, which is municipal bankruptcy. So, towns and things. We've been hearing a lot about that because the towns in California have been filing bankruptcy. I think towns in Illinois have to, but that's a different story because we have the Constitution won't let them do it. But I think most of them should seek bankruptcy protection. But there's also, the Chapter 12 is for farmers and fishermen. So they have different chapters depending on your situation. Now, I'm not going to talk about these other chapters. What I'm going to talk about here is Chapter 13, because Chapter 13, there's 2 things. Most of my clients are higher income people. So if you have a higher income, then they've implemented what they call a means test. So if I make more than the average family my size, a lot of times Chapter 7 won't be available for me, and that will force me into a Chapter 13. But it's also very good if I'm behind in a mortgage. So what's happening a lot now, and this has been happening, I've been getting a lot of cases like this, is that 10 years ago, before the collapse, a lot of people were doing financing their homes with a first mortgage and then getting what they call a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those home equity line of credits, the monthly payment was just the interest. Okay, so it wasn't very high. That payment wasn't high. So when people were moving into their home 10 years ago, they would say, "Oh, this is going to be my payment. I have my first mortgage, and let's just pick a number. Let's say it's $1,500. Oh, my second mortgage, but that's only $300. Oh, I can afford that.
Yeah, that's right.
Easy.
Yeah,
but now those HELOCs are not a 30-year like your first mortgage is a 30-year. The HELOC is generally many of them were only 10 years. So now we're coming up on that 10-year anniversary, and unlike a mortgage where it's amortized, so over those 30 years, you're paying the principal back along with the interest.
Yes.
In a HELOC, you're not paying the principal back. So when it comes 10 years later, if I borrowed $50,000, I still owe $50,000. I've only been paying the interest back.
Yes.
So now it's 10 years later, the HELOC comes due. I'm not in a good position because maybe my credit score is having it. Maybe I'm having a little bit of problem. And now I have to come up with $50,000. Well, how am I going to do that? Well, I can go back and refinance my home, but if I'm having credit problems, I'm not going to be able to refinance my home.
Exactly. Oh, so this is where the wheel starts turning.
That's where Chapter 13 can come in and help you, okay, and help you refi. So I had a client that came from our friend David Hochberg, who's a mortgage broker, and they went to him to refinance, but they're having problems. But they only owed they don't owe that much on this HELOC, but the HELOC went ahead and filed a foreclosure case against them. So now their back is against the wall. So anyway, I will help you fix that. Okay, and whether it's bankruptcy because you're behind in a loan or because you have a tax problem, and I will look at that option. And many of these outfits will not look at that option. Anyway, I hope that helps answer your question.
Thank you, Mr. Know-It-All.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Know-It-All. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, Attorney Steven Leahy is there to help you. That kind of information right there, it should help you guide you down a path to
success.
Remember, Open Tax Resolution is there for you. 312-664-6649 or visit ChicagoTaxTeam.com. It's going to be your help to fight the IRS. A lot of information out there, ladies and gentlemen, so make sure you give them a call if you do have a question. 312-664-6649. Stay tuned after the commercial break. More IRS Radio Hours coming your way here on AM560
The Answer.